Hi, this is Rob Anspach, and I'm with Gerry Oginski, a New York medical malpractice attorney. And today we're going to talk a little bit about marketing. In fact, probably the whole 45 minutes to an hour of marketing and what entrepreneurs can do to help with their online and possibly offline marketing to make them the authority in their field. So welcome, Gerry, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Rob. I am an attorney in New York, and I like to say that I own a marketing company that just so happens to sell legal services. The reality is I'm a medical malpractice attorney here in New York, and I've used video extensively to market myself and my firm as a solo practitioner, and it's worked remarkably well. And it's all education-based direct response marketing. And you can use those strategies and those tactics for really any type of marketing that you're doing. So you'll find that it doesn't just work for only video, but it works for article writing and blog posts and everything that you do to market yourself. So I think it's a great tool to start if you haven't done it already. And if you have, there are definite ways to improve it and tweak it and really get a lot out of it.
Now, you mentioned direct response marketing. Now, I know what it is, but if you can kind of explain to the audience a little bit the difference between direct response and, blanket marketing.
Sure. Imagine Nike. What do you see them do? Nike has a picture of their swoosh. They have some celebrity. Well, great. Well, how can you get in touch with Nike? How do you reach out to them? Can you pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to order something? No, you've got to go into their website or go into the store and buy something of theirs because you get in your mind that, hey, this is a product from me. Apple does it. All the big brands do it with big branding messages. But that's not direct response marketing. Direct response marketing, and by the way, that branding message is not trackable. You don't know how much money or revenue is being generated as a result of those ads being spent. So you could be spending millions of dollars a year on branding your message, but you cannot track and can't give any answer to anybody who asks, who says, well, how much revenue did we generate from that $4 million Super Bowl commercial? They have no clue. They just know that people saw the message and they don't know if it's going to drive people to the store the next day. Well, a direct response message is different. A direct response marketing message is saying, listen, I sell this shirt. And if you'd like to buy this shirt, you can buy this shirt at this web address, or you can go to this store right now and you can get it for 10% off and use this coupon code, because this way we can now track exactly how many people came to us as a direct result of our specific message with that specific coupon code or that phone number or that URL address. So that's the clear difference between branding and a general marketing message and a direct response message.
And how can entrepreneurs use that direct response approach to make what they're doing a little bit better? Because everything I hear, everything that some of these big boys, these big gurus are out there, you got to brand your message, you got to brand your image. And that's all nice and well, but some of us aren't Nike. Some of us aren't Apple. We don't have the big bucks. We don't have the unlimited spending. And some of us, may only have a couple $100 that we can spend every month for our marketing.
Yeah, I agree. As small business owners, as entrepreneurs, we have no choice but to track every dollar that we spend. So if we're spending $50 for Facebook ads, we can track to see what our message is doing and how much we're getting for every dollar we spend. Because if you're not doing it, you're simply throwing money out the window, not trackable, it's not accountable. And if you hire somebody to do marketing for you, you have to hold them accountable and say, okay, I gave you $500 to spend on advertisements. What did you spend it on? I don't see any return on my investment. And if you can't track that, then you're losing out great opportunities to know also whether or not your message is resonating with people and getting them to pick up the phone and call or go to your website and buy or get whatever it is that you're trying to offer to them. So there's a huge difference. So if you've got a limited amount of money, which most entrepreneurs and small business owners do, you actually have to track every dollar that you spend. And if you're getting $2 for every dollar you spend, great, you're making a profit. If you're getting more, even better. And this way you'll know exactly what's working. And if it's working, keep doing it. And if it's not working, now you can change, and now you can go in a different direction, try and test something else. That's why it's so critical to be able to test and know what's working and what's not.
Now you found a great, I think, a test a few years ago, a little web address called YouTube at the time, and that helped shape your law firm into something a little bit bigger, a little bit more authoritative, gave you more credibility in the marketplace, and it didn't cost you a lot of money.
Yeah, in fact, it cost me a lot of trial and error and time, but the really cool thing was that no one knew how to use video at that time, back in 2006. All we knew was that this little website says, now accepting user-generated video content. And I thought to myself, what does that mean? You know, who would ever go online to watch a video of a lawyer? I thought it was bizarre. But at that time, I was learning about something called education-based marketing, which comes down to teaching your ideal client and consumer information that they need to know. And I thought, what a great idea. And I started to do that with articles and blog posts for my website. And then when I saw this YouTube thing come online, I thought, wow, it would be really cool if I could create a video and create an educational message. Not a lecture, like giving a lecture to attorneys for an hour. That's a waste. But a small piece of marketing message that basically taught my consumer something, assuming they were searching for it. And the biggest problem at that time was that there was nobody in the country teaching anybody how to create video. The video bandwidth was very expensive. The equipment was really expensive. And I made the mistake of thinking that I needed to buy professional grade equipment to create a video. And so I went out and I bought, I think it was like a $3,000 camera that was used, by the way, a professional camera. I didn't know anything about lighting. I knew nothing about audio. And I went ahead and created what I thought was a video. So I put up a screen behind me. It was like a projector screen because I didn't want anybody to see where I was shooting video. And I had no lighting. And I shot this thing, and then I couldn't figure out how to edit it and what to do with it. And it's all trial by error. It was miserable. And it took me literally weeks. And finally, when I had it all done, I put it up onto this thing called YouTube. And then I played the damn thing, and it looked horrible. It was dark. It was grainy. It was pixelated. And I couldn't figure out what I did wrong because nobody taught you. And at that time, you couldn't even put up a single video without a problem. And it took me about a couple more weeks to try and really get it right and to play around with the settings. And the funny thing was that that video was what triggered my response. I said, holy cow, this is something that's useful. Because with that video, it was a 6-minute video that showed people how to hire a medical malpractice attorney in New York. And I got calls from that video. People would say, hey, Mr. Oginski, I just saw that video. Can I ask you some questions? And for me, that was a light bulb that went off that said, hey, number one, people are searching online for information. And number two, even though the quality was horrible, they actually watched it and they thought it was compelling enough to pick up the phone and call. And that's what got me started on this road to creating video and using it to market my practice. And right now I have over 1,700 videos online today.
That is amazing. Now, why is it that lawyers still seem to want to spend money on full-page ads in phone books, newspapers, and print magazines, and that market seems to be dying, and yet they're still hanging on?
They're doing it because a lot of attorneys try the copycat method of marketing, which is, hey, my competitors are using the yellow pages. I'm not creative enough to try and do something else. I don't want to spend the energy to try and be creative. I'm just going to see what my other competitors are doing, and I'll still put, if that guy's using a full page or double page ad, I'm going to do the same thing. And that's what attorneys did for years and years. And if you weren't in the yellow pages, I mean, that was the holy grail of marketing years ago, that's what everybody tried to do. And the big problem with the Yellow Pages advertising was that the attorneys didn't realize that you had one company designing the ads for all these competitors. So the big problem, other than being first in the book, is how do you stand out from all these other competitors on these 30 or 40 pages? The problem was that most attorneys couldn't. They all said the same exact thing. You know, we give you personal attention, we care. And they have the symbols of the graphics of the gavel and the gown and the courthouse. But so did everybody else. And so why would somebody, a consumer who's looking for an attorney, go to an attorney on page 10 when you have 9 others in front of you that all say the same thing? And the problem was you can't stand out. And so slowly but surely, you know, Yellow Pages have gone out of favor, become less relevant today, even though some people still use them. But many lawyers are thinking, hey, if that guy's doing it and he's got that ad in there for the last 10 years, it must be generating some money for him. So I should try it too.
Now, what makes your system, you know, the way you do your videos, different than some of the other lawyers who attempt to do their videos?
One of the best answers to that question is, you know, is to ask another question, like, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? The answer is practice. And the same thing with me. By doing so many of them and having the privilege of creating over 4,000 videos for attorneys across the country, you know what works, you know what doesn't work. And I can tell you and I can show you actual videos that generate calls each and every day and emails, and videos that generated valid cases that generated settlements to my office that I can go back and show you. And as of today, over the last 8.5 years, those videos have been responsible for $8.8 million worth of settlements to my clients.
Wow.
So, and by the way, there's no other attorney in the country who can say the same thing. And that's remarkable, not just because I've been doing it probably the longest, but because I show you exactly what works and, importantly, what doesn't work. And by lecturing to attorneys and teaching them, and not just attorneys, but small business owners, how the process works and why it works, all of a sudden you begin to understand it's not just a branding message. It's not talking about yourself, because you'll find that a lot of small business owners and a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of lawyers still like to talk about themselves in their videos. Hey, come to me. We've been in practice for 25 years. This is what we do, and we're great. Well, guess what? Your consumer who's going online looking for information about your product or your service doesn't give a damn about you. So stop thinking about it from the viewpoint of, hey, it's all about me. It's not. It's what you can do to help solve your customer's problem, your consumer's problem. So give them information in a video, in an article, in a blog post that teaches them something about the service or the product that you offer. Educate them. Help them understand their problem. And by doing that, all of a sudden you will stand out from everybody else who's still talking about themselves, who's talking about the features and the benefits of what it is that they do. Stop it. They don't want to know that. They're online searching. They're searching for information. So help them learn. I think, honestly, Rob, I think that most entrepreneurs have an obligation. And the obligation is to help your consumer. And if you don't help the consumer understand what they're going through, understand the problems they're having, you will never gain their trust. And that's one of the big things that I know you talk about in your books. That's you're a big proponent of that, and I am as well. If you can get them to trust you without ever meeting you, without ever seeing you in person, before they ever meet you, you are already way ahead of the game. And now, when it's time to sell your service or your product, all of a sudden now that level of trust is so much higher. And now they recognize, hey, this is somebody I like. This is somebody I understand. I've gotten to know him. He's given me great information. And guess what? That trust level is there. And I'll tell you, for a group, for an industry, a profession that has a very low trust level with the public, attorneys, using video is, in my opinion, one of the best ways to generate trust, but only if it's done correctly. And this whole concept of trust, like you first started to talk about earlier, is, in my opinion, the most important thing to getting people to understand that you have something that they need to know. And the moment they recognize that, they turn around and say, hey, Rob, you've got this great information. You do SEO for all these people, and you understand it. I like what you have to say. I've been watching you. You resonate with me. What you say makes sense. I'd like to hire you to do my SEO. And the same exact concept occurs with the videos. When I'm talking to somebody on a video, I'm teaching them something. Now, I'm not teaching them the law, because as attorneys, we can't actually give the law, but I can explain how the legal process works. So let's say you have a product for sale. Let's say you sell phones, iPhones. Okay? Well, how about teaching the consumer 100 different ways you can use the phone? How about explaining to them what you can do with it? Give them the education that will help them understand that you're not there simply to get their money. You're there to solve their problem. And they've got, every one of your consumers, every one of your customers has a problem. That's why they're online. They're looking for information. People go on YouTube, they're typing information, they're typing a query to say, hey, I don't understand how to change my faucet. How do I do that? How do I change the electrical wiring in my house? How do I fix a hole in my roof? Well, if you have any of these services, guess what? You now take the time to explain, and hopefully, if they're in your neighborhood, they will call you to help to help them solve the problem. Let me say that again, to help solve their problem. So the trust, in my opinion, is one of the most important things.
Now, we talk about trust, and you talked about standing out. And, one of the things that I see a lot of is duplication. Whether it be a template website, duplicated keywords across the spectrum of their page. But what I see a lot of in lawyer videos is the same templated video where all they do is put a picture, a phone number, and the rest of it is the same music, the same background, and there's a service that must go out there and just copycat everything just to get money from these lawyers, because the lawyers don't want to do anything.
Right.
And to me, you're losing that uniqueness. You're losing that ability to stand out because you're copying somebody else. And it's not just in attorney marketing. It's everywhere. But I find that the attorneys, either they don't have the time, they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the understanding, that they just don't want to deal with it. They'd just rather pay someone, hey, go do my marketing. And that doesn't build trust. When I see you on video and watch your videos, and each one is a question with an answer, and you're not preaching to me, you're educating me, I get to know you, I get to trust you. And then when I finally meet you, you are the same person. You have the same personality that you have in that video. You're kind, you're gentle. You're going to walk me hand in hand through the whole process of the legal spectrum. And that in and of itself is more of a comfort, more of a trust creation tool than anything else.
Absolutely.
So, what do you say when you see other attorneys using these copied methods?
I see them wasting their time and their resources, and it's unfortunate. I think if they bothered to learn the techniques properly, they could then get a better return on their time as well as on their efforts, because you've got to be able to focus on, it doesn't matter what media you're using. If you can't generate that trust and you're simply copying what somebody else has done, you don't understand the psychology behind the message. And I see this very often. So an attorney tries to copy something that's been done by somebody else, and now they come across as stilted and stunted. And it's very funny. I did a video shoot a couple of weeks ago with an attorney, and I'd never met him in person before. Great guy. And I walk into his office, and he turns to me and says, "You look exactly like you do in your video." And I hope so. But the reality is that it is so important because these people get to see you, they get to know you. Now when they actually meet you, they have that heightened level of, you're almost like a celebrity. It's like, hey, I've seen you so many times before, and I liked what you had to say. Now I see you in person. That trust level goes up. The comfort level goes up. The resistance level goes down. And when that happens, it's just remarkable because, you know, that's the power of video.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that works so well. And if you can't get that done in the form of a video, you can do that in an article. Write the way that you talk, and now give people great information. Stop talking about yourselves. And it's funny, I tell attorneys across the country when I lecture, I say, listen, you can revolutionize your marketing by eliminating these 6 words and 6 phrases. I, me, my, mine, our, my firm. Just eliminate those words and phrases, and all of a sudden, the focus changes from you to your customer, your client. And that is a massive shift.
Yeah, it is. And you know, I just can't believe that in all this time, you've produced 1,700 different videos. I mean, you're outside, you're inside, you're in a suit, you're in a winter coat, you're on a beach, you're everywhere, and every one is different. You know, you focus on different aspects of law, and it's not that. I mean, you find questions in everything, and you explain them, and I come across some of these entrepreneurs who there's a stumbling block somewhere. They say, well, what do I talk about? I don't understand these questions. Where do these questions come from? You know, what am I doing wrong? And it's like, this is your industry. You should know all these questions that these customers ask you, and yet you're finding it's hard. But yet 1,700 videos later, you're still coming up with questions.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'll give you a great example. So in the beginning, when attorneys started creating video, they would always shoot it in front of a legal bookcase, thinking that by standing in front of a legal bookcase, it gave you more gravitas, it gave you more, importance, and that the client watching you would say, hey, look at this guy in front of a legal bookcase, he must be important. Well, after seeing all that, I realized, you know what? That's such crap. I'm going to go do something totally different and go outside in my backyard and shoot video, because nobody was using their backyard to shoot video. So then I realized, you know what, this is great. I'm going to find every place in my house to shoot video because nobody's using their house to shoot video. And then I'd do the same thing when I'd go on vacation. I'd go shoot video on vacation, and the same exact thing, all because I wanted to be a little different than what all these other yahoos and everybody, all these other attorneys and marketers were doing. And it was very useful. So the same thing, you asked the question, where do you get your content? And there's a lot of different ways to come up with content, as you know. But one of the things I find the best is just to start with, what do people ask you about? What are those frequently asked questions? And then here's a really great teaching point that any entrepreneur watching this will really benefit from. You've got to be inside the mind of your ideal client, of your ideal customer. You have to think about what they are going through. Where are they in their timeline from when they have a problem to a solution? And so from the very first starting point up until the end point, when they solve their problem, where are they on that timeline? And if you can now put yourself not just in their shoes, but put yourself in their mind of what they're exactly thinking. Okay, I've got this problem. I need to solve this problem. Where do I go to look for information to solve the problem? And now, once they've identified where to go for information, how can they get information to help them? And what will they do to make that decision? Okay, now they have choices. Well, how do you help them make that choice? You can create videos about the different choices that are available. and you can help them understand why the different choices might be for them or not for them. And you just take them down that path, that timeline where they now are wondering what happens next. Okay, so now you bribe my product or service. What's going to happen next? Teach them. They don't know your process. They don't know what occurs next. They don't know how you're going to optimize their website. Great. Well, then teach them that. They don't know how you're going to ship them the shirt that you just bought. When can they expect it? What color will it be? What will happen in the wash? Teach them about that. Every step of the process that goes on from the time they pick up the phone to call, either the sales process or the customer service response time, whatever it is that goes on in your company, in the business that you run, you can teach somebody. For example, let's say you sell ice cream. Great. You can now tell people what's going to happen from the time you come in, from the time that it's made, from the time, what you have to do to prepare it, get it ready, get it all done. Any business, teach them along that continuum, and create a notebook and keep a warehouse of ideas and questions. Every time you get it, put it down your phone. Make sure you go back to your notebook and keep it. I keep many notebooks, and from that, I will always, if I have time to do a video, open up my notebook, and I'll have hundreds of ideas. So I'm never at a loss for words. Here's another great one. Open up the newspaper. There's got to be something going on in your community or in the news that somehow you can relate to what you do on an everyday basis. It's got to be. And now use that as a topic to talk about and illustrate something that you do or a service you provide to help people. And always focus on what's going on in the mind of the consumer and what can I teach them that will help them understand. And by the way, even if it's not a direct method to try and get them to call, you're still teaching them something they didn't know. So now what are you doing? You're building trust. By building trust, you build authority. And you don't have to come out and say, hey, I'm an expert, I've been doing this 25 years. Instead, you just have to teach people things that they don't know. And, it might be secret to somebody who never does it before, but it's not a secret to you because you do it every day. So let's say you're a carpet cleaner, right? And you now, and your client, your customer, has a wine stain on their brand new white carpet. They don't know how to get it out. But if you give them 3 tips on how to get out a wine stain from their brand new carpet, guess what? You look like the hero. They try it. It works. Now your trust level has gone way up. And what have you done? You've just helped somebody understand how to solve a problem. And by doing that, you will dramatically stand out from everybody else.
Is there videos that you've done that have gotten more response than the others?
Yeah, definitely. And I follow that closely. So some videos will get very little response and very little view time. Others take off like wildfire and get hundreds and hundreds or even thousands of views. And, it's so funny. Attorneys come to me and they say, hey, I want to create a video that goes viral. I said, that's the wrong mentality. I said, you have to create video that focuses on your ideal client or consumer. If incidentally, as a secondary nature, it takes off and goes viral, great. But attorneys, for the most part, their videos will never go viral because it's not interesting. It's not a funny cat video. It's not something cute and adorable. So don't expect it to. And most business owners shouldn't do that either. But when you realize that there is a great interest in a particular topic in a video, I would go ahead and then create another 10 videos around the same topic. Not to dilute it, but to add and supplement to what it is that you've already created. Because you don't know why it took off and people are so interested in it. And if you find that one of your videos has done remarkably well, well, now you have to reverse engineer and ask yourself, why did it do so well? What was so powerful? Why was it so interesting? And then try and replicate that as well as the ideas in the next video you create. It doesn't always work. In fact, most of the time it won't work, but that's what you have to try and do to analyze it.
Now, what are some of the reactions that you get from, people watching your videos? I mean, do they immediately pick up the phone and call? Do they watch a couple more? I mean, if you've asked people before, say, how many videos have you watched before you called me?
I'm going to play this for you. I got two voicemails last night, and they both talk about the fact that they just watched my videos. And hang on, let's see if I can play this for you, and you can hear some of it.
Hello, good afternoon. Hopefully, Gerry Secretary will call me back anyway. My name is Saeed. Unfortunately, I'm calling from Toronto, Canada, and I have been watching YouTube. I was just Googling and searching it, but I've seen this. And it's something that's happening to my wife, exactly the similar situation you talked about on the YouTube. And he's in New York. We're in Toronto, Canada. Is there any other legal doctors, lawyers, maybe not, he can refer to us? I really need to speak to anyone if you do call me at 416.
So this is a guy who called me last night from Canada. And the funny thing is that I tell people in my videos that I only practice in New York, but yet I get calls like this every day from people across the country saying, hey, I'm in a different state. Can you help me, even though you only practice in New York? So I get these types of responses often. Not always, but often. And it's remarkable because it always starts out the same way. Hey, Mr. Oginski, I just saw your video about this topic. The same exact thing happened to me. Can I ask you some questions? Now, with the type of law that I handle, the majority of people who call me do not have valid cases. So, for example, out of 100 people that call, 99 of them will not have a valid case. And of the one that possibly has one, I'll do an investigation. And most of the time, those people still do not have a valid case. But the whole point is, I've gotten them to call. Why did they call? Because they watched the video. Maybe they watched one, maybe they watched 5, 10, 15, or a number of them. And the best is when I get people who say, hey, I've watched all your videos. Now, that's going to be really difficult to watch all my videos. And to do that, you'd have to watch, I don't know for how many days on end, which I don't even think I could do. I wouldn't even tolerate.
We should make a challenge to somebody to watch all of them.
Oh, no. That's crazy. But it's really remarkable to see that happen. And, you know, it's same thing. I'll be at a seminar lecturing to attorneys. And in the middle of, after I get off the stage, I'll be talking with attorneys or with business owners, and I'll see that I got a voicemail from somebody or a message, and I'll show the attorneys I'm talking to. Listen, here, somebody's calling me because of a video I created. Why aren't you doing this? And, you know, they just have lots of excuses. Or they say, hey, go ahead.
Not all your videos are serious in nature. Some of them, in fact, I think some of them are really funny. Your bloopers. And I think blooper videos are just the greatest way to show people that, one, you're human, that you have a sense of humor, and that you can joke about your mistakes.
Yeah, it's really funny. I started doing that by accident. I thought, okay, I've got all these outtakes and these bloopers from the videos when I was creating them, because nobody, I don't care how good you are, you're always going to have bloopers. And I figured there's nobody in my industry who's ever created a blooper, because all these attorneys are so stuck up and, you know, formal. I said, why can't I be a little different and put something humorous out there? Not a commercial, but something different. And so I started to create these little bloopers from time to time, and I figured, you know what, this is actually a lot of fun. And I don't know, I think I'm up to blooper number 48 at this point, when I have time to do it. And it's just really humorous and quick little blurb, you know, 25, 30 seconds at most.
And people really respond to those bloopers.
Yeah, because they see that you're a human being and that, you know, you make mistakes. And I always joke about it. I said, listen, here's an attorney who speaks professionally for a living, who's making all these mistakes. Come watch. And people like watching attorneys screw up their words. It's just a fact, you know. So I find it to be very interesting, and yet I have these attorneys who say, oh, no, I could never do that. It wouldn't look professional. Yeah, you're right. It won't look professional. But at the same time, people will see that you are a human being, and not everyone is perfect. So I like it. I think it works.
You know, you started out taking these video concepts, and then you started a video company just for lawyers. You know, and it kind of reminds me of my story, where I started out as a carpet cleaner, who I took the concepts and ideas that I learned being an owner operator, learning SEO and social media and marketing and all this other stuff, and I took it out to the world. And now that I teach this full time, I don't clean carpet, which is really nice. Now, I don't know if you'd want to give up, you know, your law practice full time, but you have a concept that can be replicated into any industry, not just you know, law firms. You know, why just law firms, and why did you only want to focus on that?
Well, that was my industry, and that's what I knew best. And I figured if I niched down into the attorneys, two things would happen. One is that I know their language. I know what their problems are. I know intimately exactly what pain keeps them up at night. And so I wanted to focus on addressing these guys. And I have to tell you that as the only practicing attorney in the country who helps other attorneys create these videos, I can talk to them on their level. And in fact, my business partner, who does the back-end production side of the video with all the editing, for years he had tried to break into the legal niche to get attorneys to come and do video with him. But the biggest problem was that he was just another video guy. He was great at what he did, but he couldn't relate to them on the level of, hey, he's another lawyer just like me. And I don't know what it is about other lawyers, but they tend to want to focus, many of them, on needing to have another attorney talk to them, as opposed to just some vendor who's some video guy. So when you come to them with a specialized background and experience of being a practicing attorney who does this day in and day out, all of a sudden you have a different level of you know, interest with the potential client, who now sees you as, hey, you're not just a vendor, you're also somebody who does this, who uses this daily, who gets results. And there's a whole different mindset when you see that, compared to just some video guy walking in and saying, okay, I'm going to shoot a wedding tomorrow, a bar mitzvah the next day, I'm going to shoot a automotive commercial the next day. Well, yeah, anybody can do that. You can do that with your iPhone, you know. But when you have somebody in your niche, you can walk into a carpet cleaner and say, okay, here's the things you need to be teaching these people. Here's what you need to focus on. Here are the articles you should be talking about. Here's the optimization we're going to do and focus on, and I can tell you because I've done this. And that's really important. So can you translate that into other niches? Definitely. So people who are watching this shouldn't just say, oh, he's only an attorney. No, no, no. This works for every entrepreneur. This works for every small business owner. And it would even work for bigger businesses if they bothered to open their eyes and realize that branding is not the way to go. But, you know, that's their choice.
Now, that opens up a lot of challenges, though, for you, because you're butting heads with people that don't have an open mindset like you do when it comes to creating these videos.
Yeah. I encountered that challenge when I did a series of videos for a very large hospital system near me. One of the doctors I'm very good friends with had been watching what I've been doing for years and said, hey, why can't we do this too? I said, you know what, you can. And you'd probably be the only doctors around in the community who are doing this. And so as a test project, he went to the hospital administrators and actually got permission to do a test run to see if we could do this for them. And the hospital system really had no YouTube strategy. They didn't know anything about it. And I came in, and remember, their whole marketing team was, they'd come from big branding companies. Their whole message was, let's brand the health system, the hospital system. And this was very foreign to them. So we went ahead as a test. We did it exactly the way I do it with my attorney videos. And we had done huge amounts of videos for many of their doctors in this one particular group. And the reality was, we tracked the calls that were coming in. And guess what? It worked. The doctors were getting patients as a result of the videos, the educational videos that they created. And it worked great until the marketing team changed. And you had that marketing team that we had educated and taught and explained, and now they brought in a whole new team because they had a whole new branding message, and they came to us and said, stop, we don't like what you're doing. We said, what do you mean? They said, well, you're branding each individual doctor. That can't happen. We said, what do you mean? They said, we only want doctors, we only want the health system branded. So rather than have a direct response mechanism for the patient to call the doctor, we want the patient to call the main health system number, and then we can direct where they're going to go. We said, wait a second, we have metrics that show you that this works. This is a proven, tested method. This is not a branding message where we can't accurately account for what we did with the money and what we did for the results. We're showing you, here's what we did, here are the calls, here are the patients that came to us. And guess what they said? No, we feel from a policy standpoint, the branding message is better rather than focusing on the individual doctors. So we had to change all the graphics on the videos that we did. Instead of having a call to action that says, hey, if you'd like more information, call Dr. Jones at this number below. Instead, hey, if you'd like more information and to get help at our health system, call the general main number below. Well, guess what? Now they can't track where anything comes from, and they have no clue. So that's a huge difference, and that's one of the big challenges we had, especially when dealing with a big corporation, and that mindset mentality that, in my opinion, just wasn't right. It would have done so much better if they left individual doctors have that direct response mechanism.
I agree. Now let's go back to authority building. Now you also, like myself, wrote a couple books. Do you have any of those books that you can show and explain why you wrote them?
Sure. I have one here. It's called Secrets of Lawyer Video Marketing in the Age of YouTube. And basically it teaches you and explains to you how and why video marketing is so powerful. From building trust, building authority. It shows you techniques. It shows you what to do, what not to do. And one of the things I've done in my book that some people have criticized me for is I've actually included a lot of testimonials in here as social proof to show people who are reading this, hey, listen, I've done videos for lawyers across the country, and this is what they had to say. And you can actually watch their videos by clicking on the QR codes that are in the book, and you can actually watch for yourself to see what they have to say. But the key reason, just like you mentioned, why I wrote the book is because I wanted to use this as a lead generation tool to teach people that, hey, I have great information. And, you know, for those of you who think that this is just a small little book, a pamphlet with like 40 or 50 pages, this has just under 300 pages, 298 pages.
An afternoon read.
Well, believe it or not, it actually is a very quick read. You can probably read it in an afternoon because it's very conversational. And there's a lot of great tips in here that will help you understand why video marketing is so powerful. But yeah, I think writing a book like this and then using it to give away, I actually give this away rather than, and you can also buy it, but I think giving it away is so much more powerful because it generates that trust where somebody says, oh, wow, look at that. He's written a book. He's an author. And now he's not charging me for this. He's giving it to me. So you can, I offer this to people on my website. I give it away at seminars. And I think it's very useful.
Now you touched on, in fact, on your book, you have a QR code. And I've used QR codes before in the past as well. And they're great when you use your iPhone or your smartphone. And there's a little app on here. You just take a picture. And it takes you to wherever that QR code has been programmed to go to. So a YouTube link, a website, you know, an order page. Some people love QR codes, some don't. It's just another tool that you can use.
I've actually fallen out of favor with it because I find that I personally don't use it much, and I don't see a lot of other people using it. But at the time when I wrote the book, I thought, hey, this is probably something new and novel and cool. And And it was at the time, but I don't think it's really prevalent today.
Well, you know, when I was in Europe in Madrid in 2011, QR codes were everywhere. I came back to the States and nobody was using them. And I'm like, wow, okay, you know, they're big in Europe. Fantastic. Everybody's got smartphones over there. Here, I don't think they caught on the way they had imagined. People are still using them. But, you know, I can honestly say that I haven't even clicked on a QR code probably in 6 months, even though I include it in my books. And it's not the fact that you know, right now my camera is broken, so I can't do anything. I can't take pictures. I can't scan QR codes. I think it's time for a new phone. But there are a lot of people who, you know, even with Google's new algorithm favoring mobile, I still don't think that people use their smartphones as like they used to. I think that it's kind of waned a little bit on people. You know, people just want to go back to the simplicity of a dumb phone. And I know it's sad. I mean, because we have all the world's information basically, you know, in our pocket, and we can pull it out anytime we want and access it. And I just think people are starting to not use it as much as they should.
How are you using your books?
I have them on Amazon. I have them on Kindle. I give a lot away. You know, a lot of people though are, and I see this right now. Kindles, I think, are not in favor anymore. People are still downloading stuff on Kindle, but I think people love the physical texture of a book. They can take it with them. They can read it in a car. They can put it on a train. Although they can do those things with a Kindle, now they need a special gizmo, you know, an iPad or a Kindle application. With a book, they can mark it up. They can highlight it. They can do, you know, twist the pages. They can, you know, they can smell the paper. And I think that, you know, books cost a little bit more. But I think when you give someone a physical book, it has more power than saying, "Hey, go download my Kindle," because, you know, a book is what I call an overgrown business card. It tells people who you are, what you do, how you do it.
And now, people don't throw away their books.
Right. Now they might share them, they'll give them away, but now it's another chance for someone else to read it.
You shared this one with me.
You know, that book is now 2 years old. And probably 30 pounds heavier I am since I wrote it, which you know, as I discussed, I have to go.
There you are on the back.
But, you know, the concepts in that book were very simple to follow. And just like you, I write in a conversational tone because I want people to understand that social media, search engine optimization, although they sound complicated, are really not complicated at all. Just like marketing, it just takes a little effort. You know, you need to follow I call it a set parameter. But, you know, once you understand the concepts, you know, it's very easy to generate income off social media, you know, to utilize social or to utilize SEO to get people to find your website. And same with your YouTube videos. Now, going back to YouTube videos, you know, just throwing a video up doesn't mean that people are going to find you.
Right.
You know, it needs to be, you know, keyworded right. You have to put a description in. You know, it needs to lead people back to where you want them to go, whether it be your website or some other video.
As a great example, just this morning I was putting up transcripts on my videos, and I will often take a look at attorneys' videos to see whether or not they put transcripts up. And I'd say about 98% of them don't. And I will tell them over and over again, and I lecture and I write about this. I say, you've got to use everything that YouTube gives you in order to maximize the chances that you will help them get your stuff found. Because remember, they're just a big search engine, and they basically need your help to get your stuff found. And if you're not using all of the strategies that YouTube tells you to use, you're limiting yourself. And the problem, going back earlier to what you said, is that these attorneys are lazy, or their marketing companies don't know what to do. So they're not including the transcripts. They're not writing a supplemental blog post for each video. They're not using spotlight annotations. They're not using the new cards that came out that you can now use on YouTube. Okay, all of these little tiny strategies are designed for one purpose only: to help you get your videos found and to increase engagement. And again, most people aren't using them because they don't know about them. And when they see them, they say, oh my God, it's too hard, I can't do it. Or they didn't know that their web company or their SEO guy was supposed to be doing this. So now, again, they're at a disadvantage. And, you know, putting up transcripts is not a big deal as long as you know how to do it. All these steps aren't difficult as long as you know how to do it and have the time and energy to do it. Most of these business owners and most of these attorneys don't have the time and the desire to do it. So they call you up and they say, hey, Rob, I'd like you to do it for me. Okay, well, what do you charge? Well, I charge this amount. Oh, no, I could never do that. Well, fine, go do it yourself. And they will never do it. The reality is that you have to make an investment to go ahead and have somebody who knows how it's done, who's gotten results, who knows what to do, say, Rob, I understand you've gotten great results for these other people. You know how to optimize these videos. You know how to optimize my website. Please, go do it. Just tell me what it's going to cost me. I'll write you the check right now. That's what I like to see when people come to me for their videos. That's what it's great to see when people do it with you. And you know what? Just like you would never go to a, here's a great thing. Let's say you need heart surgery. Are you going to price shop for your heart surgeon? You know, which doctor is going to do the heart surgery the cheapest? Or do you want the best heart surgeon? And you're willing to pay whatever you have to because it's an investment in your life. Well, this is an investment in your business. And you have to make that choice. Will you go ahead and hire somebody who's qualified, who's well recognized, who's got the trust factor and resonates with you? Or do you want to go to the cheapest guy in town who you're now going to have to pick all these a la carte little menu options, and you don't even know if you're going to get any type of response or results, and you're going to have a tough time. And then they're going to come back to you, scratch their head saying, I don't understand, why didn't this work? Well, maybe if you didn't hire that 15-year-old, you know, who told you could put up a website and get it optimized, well, maybe you should hire somebody who's done this before, who can get it all done for you at once, show you it works, and then keep doing it and repeat the process.
Right. And, you know, these Hangout videos, you know, they may not be the highest quality in video, but here's the thing. And I want you guys to, anybody who's listening, I want you to take note, because everything that Gerry and I discussed here can be broken down into clips that you can now share with your Facebook viewers, with your YouTube viewers. You could put the whole video up. You can clip it into segments that now you can share everywhere. You can turn the whole segment into an iTunes audio. You can take the transcript and make it into, you know, a book, a chapter. You know, you now have, you know, if you spend an hour interviewing somebody with video, you have probably 4 or 5 different ways now that you can share that information with somebody. And it's easier than you think. And the more that you think about it, the more you're going to overcomplicate the issue. So why don't you just take some action and just attempt something? You know, Gerry has already proven that video is key to your marketing tools. You know, 1,700 videos. You know, I think that if it wasn't a success, he would have stopped a long time ago.
That's for sure. It takes up a lot of time. But, you know, the fun thing is that it's actually a lot of fun to do it. when you get good at it and when you get really the ability to get an idea and say, okay, now I can create a 2 to 3 minute video and get it up online. And to me, it's so cool when I get, I'll be in court and my adversary will come up to me and say, hey, I just saw your video that you did. That was great. That was really cool. Or in the middle of a deposition where I'm questioning a witness, we'll take a break and my adversary will say, you better not put that up on YouTube and, you know, put that topic in a video. And the reality is your competitors will take notice. They'll see what you're doing because you'll begin dominating your online space. And all of a sudden, other people will begin to take notice. And if you can get people talking about you, about what you're doing, and it's a good thing what you're doing, all of a sudden you can now get a flow of people talking that are now sharing your information. Hey, look at what this guy Rob does. He creates SEO for all these great websites and these great entrepreneurs and great companies. Terrific. And now all of a sudden you're talking to somebody else. You know, my website needs to be optimized. Really? Well, you should call Rob. And by the way, I do this all the time because I have people come to me. They say, listen, my website stinks. I'm not getting any traction. And what do I tell them? I say, go to the trusted authority. Call Rob Anspach because he does this. He knows what to do. Call him. He'll help you. And that's the key. So when you get people talking about it, they see you, they begin to trust you, just like what you were talking about now with this Google Hangout. Take these clips, put them up online, use them to teach your ideal clients and consumers, and all of a sudden that trust level goes up and people begin to call. It won't happen instantly, but it will happen over time. And by the way, as you create more and more great content in the form of videos, all of a sudden you'll push out your competitors because you begin dominating your space and your market. And that is the coolest thing when that happens, when you do a search for something online or even on YouTube. You do it in a stealth browser like on Chrome so that your results are not skewed. And then all of a sudden you see the results where one after the next of your videos show up, and it's all you, not your competitors. That's when you know you're really dominating. And that's what you strive for.
Right. You strive to push your competitors off that page one. And in essence, you become a search engine bully. You know, you're kicking them out of the sandbox.
In a nice way.
In a nice way. And you know, SEO is and I want to tell everybody, you know, I want you to all to go to Gerry's website, you know, and the fastest way to do that is to type in NY Medical Malpractice Attorney, and he'll be on page 1 of Google. I guarantee it. And I think he's what, number 3, but the first 2 people that are ahead of him aren't even lawyers. They're like, you know, these places where lawyers can buy to get placement in a section. So to me, that's not even a qualifying, you know, top placement. So in most cases, Gerry is usually number 1 on page 1. So, you know, when you're searching, when you're trying to push your competitors out there, look at what they're doing. Why are they on page 1? What are the keywords that they're using to get there? And I'm not saying copy what they're doing, but be better at what, you know, be better at the game than they're trying to already play. Because a lot of times they've, the only reason that they're there is because of the age of their URL. You know, with Gerry, he's got content, he's got videos, he's got social proof. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. And, you know, he's just dominating.
It's funny you say that because I ask business owners and attorneys all the time when they get on a call with me, I said, let me ask you about your website. How often are you updating it? And I'll get the range from, I don't know, maybe once every couple of months to once a week. And I always ask them, why are you doing more? What's stopping you from putting up articles every day? And they always have an excuse. I'm too busy, I can't do it. I said, fine, if you can't do it, hire somebody who will do it. Oh, but then I have to supervise. Of course you have to supervise what they're doing, but that takes a lot less time and energy and effort than if you were to write them all yourself. And then they get really they look sheepish when they ask me how much I'm putting on my website. And when I tell them anywhere from 3 to 4 articles a day, between articles and blog posts, they're like, how are you doing that? I said, well, the reality is I don't write all that stuff myself. I have people write for me that I read over, I supervise, I edit, I correct, and then we put it up on my website. And we do that consistently each and every day, even on weekends. And, it's good, really useful content, relevant content, which is what the search engines want.
Mm-hmm.
They want information to see that you have an authority source by giving people great information.
And you're right. And I apologize for cutting you off, but your social media needs to be updated just as frequently. You put these tabs on your website to say, go to my Facebook, go to my Twitter, go to my LinkedIn, my Pinterest, all these different places. And I go there and they haven't been updated in years. You might as well just take it down and don't tell people to go somewhere that you're not updating.
One of my pet peeves on social media is when I see a business says, hey, check out my new video. To me, that's a total waste of time and effort. Why? Because nobody cares about your video. You don't just say, hey, check out my video. It's like you walking into a party, you don't know anybody in the room, all of a sudden you raise your hands and scream out in a loud voice, hey, everybody, look at me. I'm great. And then you put your hands down, turn around, and walk out of the room. That's exactly what it is, what you've just done. Nobody cares. But if you go over to somebody and introduce yourself, hi, I'm Gerry, what's your name? And now start having a conversation. Where are you from? What do you do? Now start learning from them. All of a sudden, you have a different dynamic than if you walked into that party, say, hey, everybody, come look at my video, and walk away. Nobody cares. But if you turn around and say, hey, here are 3 things you need to know if you're having trouble getting your website found. Here are 4 things on how best to optimize your website if you can't get anybody to come to your site. That teaches people something rather than just saying, hey, check out what my great new video did or like my page. Well, why? Why should I like your page? You didn't give me a reason. And if you don't give me a reason, I'm never, ever going to come to your page.
Oh, please come to my page.
I'm telling you, you see that all the time. But it's the same thing with attorneys, with business owners who create these videos. They'll tell you some great information, but then they don't. I'll give you a great example. You're watching TV and you see this TV commercial come on for an attorney. If you've been injured, pick up the phone and call me. We handle these cases all the time. The same crap you always see. But the one thing that you never, ever see in an attorney commercial is why. Why should I call you, Mr. Fast Talking Attorney, and not the next guy I see 5 minutes later? What is it about you that's going to want me to call you and not the next guy or the next one? The problem is these guys don't give that answer. So if you're not giving that answer, then there's no compelling reason for me to want to call you in that message. And that goes back to the direct response message that we talked about at the beginning. You've got to create that reason why. So if you're using social media, and you should be, to tell the world and tell all your followers about all this great content you have out there, include the reason why somebody should do something you want them to do. Hey, check out my video. Why? Because you'll learn 3 great new things on how to optimize your website in 5 minutes. Terrific. Now you've given me a reason. If I have that problem, I'm going to look at that. You've got to have that hook, and you've got to be a serious one. You can't do a switch and bait. Bait and switch. That won't work. You'll lose all trust totally. So you've got to have that trust factor, and you've got to basically come out and tell people, here's why you need to watch this video. Because if you're missing that one critical component, you wasted your time.
Well, we're almost to the end, and I want to tell everybody to go to Gerry's site, not because you want to like him, because you will, but because you're going to learn some great marketing. You're going to learn what this lawyer is doing to win trust over his audience. So, Gerry, if you want to give that web address, if you want to share your Facebook or anything else you want to do, your phone number, And if people want to grab your book, where can they get it?
Okay, they can see two things. My law firm website is oginski-law.com, oginski-law.com. My book is Secrets of Lawyer Video Marketing, the Age of YouTube. You can actually get a free first couple of chapters if you go onto my Lawyers Video Studio site, and that URL is lawyersvideostudio.com. And if you want more great marketing information and tips and ideas about video marketing, within my Lawyers Video Studio website is a tab for the blog. And I highly recommend you click on that and read those articles. You'll get great information, just like we were talking about here today with Rob, and it'll really educate you and help you understand how important video is, as well as using these tools to market yourself and your business.
Hey, this was great, and I hope to do it again. And I hope everyone enjoyed this. Would love your feedback. And if you want Gerry back, just say, hey, you know what? Let's bring him back, because I think we could probably fill up hours and hours and hours. So I'll leave that with Gerry. And I just want to say, thanks for listening, and I'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, everybody.